Welcome back. It's still AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of your state. We thank you for staying tuned. Of course, we're now in our interview segment, and this morning I'll be looking at a critical topic that involves all of us. Of course, we'll be discussing concerns over rising debt service body, of course, in Nigeria. And of course, to do this, we have a special guest in the studio with us who is an expert, finance expert, Mr. Tunji Adepeju. He's a finance expert. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
All right, of course, according to reports, Nigeria's total public debt rose to 153.29 trillion naira as of September 30th, 2025, according to the Debt Management Office, DMO. This represents an increase of 900 billion naira, or you say 0.59% from the 152.39 trillion recorded in June 2025. The country's debt stock is projected to climb above 177.14 trillion naira by the end of 2026, driven largely by estimated 23.85 trillion naira budget deficit for 2026. All right, the DMO report released at the weekend showed sharp variation in the state-level debt movement, domestic debt, of course, and on and on. And of course, the total debt stock comprises of both domestic and external liability of the federal government and the 36 states of the federation, including the FCT. Now, our major focus is on the federal. So let's look at what this issue of debt looks like. Let's see, why do we have debt in Nigeria? How did we accumulate so much in trillions debt? Why is this on the increase and alarming?
Well, good morning, and thank you so much. You know, we want to go back to probably 1999. And that was when Chief Obasanjo was the president and head of state. I think he met some level there. And with its connections and the assistance, I use the word assistance, of Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, we were able to get forgiveness from the Paris Club. I think that should be probably 2022 or thereabout. I'm not too sure of the time. And they let us off. But it was also at a cost, because we had to have some arrangements with the French government, because at least I'm aware that when Nigeria was to undertake a particular project and the Nigerian company sort of won the contracts that they bid, it's had to take the French
company.
No, the French Prime Minister also, to now say, well, if you think that Nigerian company has to do that job, then forget about debt forgiveness. So the government of Chief Obasanjo, had to concede, and that was how Sagem, a French company, came into that contract in place of a Nigerian company that actually won the bid. So not many people know about this.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm saying it's as it is, or as it was at that time. So we went back after that forgiveness. I think we went back into debt again, even before Chief Obasanjo left government. And I think by the time Dr. Jonathan was the president, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala publicly told us that they were borrowing to pay salaries of federal civil servants. So this thing has been accumulating over time. So we are where we are now. Over the years, I think the debt to revenue ratio was tilted towards we were paying. I mean, we're using more of the low revenue that we are generating to even service the debts. And you know, there's no government that will just come in to service the debts of a previous government. You also want to put some things on ground: infrastructure, education, health, and all the rest. So it has to be a cycle of taking new loans or accumulating new debts.
But so talking of new loans, new debts, some experts are of the opinion that taking loans is not entirely wrong, is not entirely bad. I mean, Nigeria is not the only country owing. But what's your view about our current state in terms of debt servicing?
Well, I align with the other experts you mentioned. There is nothing wrong in taking a loan. It is what you use and how you use that loan that matters, or that will matter. Let's look at some of these things that ought to have happened before now. You said you want to concentrate on the federal, but let me use Lagos State as an example. Lagos State is the state with the highest debt body, followed by Kaduna and I think Rivers State. Look at what the Lagos State might have been taking loans for. You have the blue, is it the blue line?
Blue rail line.
The red and all those things. If these projects have been undertaken initially when it was conceived, even in the days of Jakonde, the amount of money they are spending now on this construction will not be as high as this, and will have been reaping the benefits 40 years ago. So if we don't want to be static, we just have to continue taking loans, especially for infrastructure. But the problems that we might have had in the past with all these other debts that we had that accrued and the servicing had to do with corruption.
Okay, before we go to the issue of corruption, in our conversation when we started, you took us back memory lane to when our debt was forgiven by the French government and the Paris Club loan that we took. And reports have it here that in 1999, Nigeria faced a severe debt crisis with a total federal debt of approximately 3.55 trillion. The external debt component stood at about $28.04 billion, while external debt arrears were $18.86 billion. Total debt was around $798 billion. The debt to GDP ratio was roughly 64.9%. That's according to this report. And of course, I don't want to begin to go to details. Now, if we got to over 3 trillion at that time, and we thought there was a need to seek for, debt forgiveness, and immediately after, we started going into debt again. And you have linked all of this with the issue of corruption. And so that would take me to the next question, asking you, what is the cause? Because you have talked about corruption, which I think is one, but I think there will be other causes of our indebtedness increasing on a daily basis?
Yes, apart from corruption, rate corruption very high, because it's one thing you take a debt or a loan and you divert it into doing something unproductive or into private pockets. No matter how, the debt is still on the country. And I mean, if you look at it now, look at this PID crisis, legal battle that took so many years to get over in the UK. I think we just got over another one, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. So when people that are supposed to manage these loans now decide to align with the lender or create problems to the extent that we are not able to use the loans for the purpose for which they are taken, then we have issues. Another major problem that we have is our low revenue. You know, over the years, major revenue and in capacity have been coming from oil. And you know, oil business is, it's not something you can really predict. It's volatile. So over some time, the cost per barrel was low, and at a point in time, it went up. But you want to now ask, when it went up, how did we utilize it? Apparently, we didn't use that too well. Apart from the low revenue that is coming into the government's coffers, we also want to look at some things, like I mentioned, oil, that you cannot determine. When there is a shock, we have to, where the government had to just put some things in place to make sure that the government keeps running. Look at 2019, 2020, and probably going into 2021, we had COVID-19. You know, it was like everything just came down to a standstill. Nothing was coming in, yet the government would keep spending. Salaries were paid, some other overhead had to be taken care of. So along the line, the debt kept increasing. And even the servicing, in fact, for some years, we were not even repaying the debts, we were only servicing until probably, was it last year, that the government of President Tinubu was able to clear some longer-standing debts. So these are issues that we need to consider.
And I want to talking of the causes you mentioned corruption and low revenue. I want us to look at the revenue now. You know, like you mentioned, oil has been the major source for us in Nigeria in terms of revenue generation. But are there other sources we should begin to look at, channel our energy into as a nation, you know, instead of just focusing on one or two particular sources?
Yes, I think that is what the current government, I believe, is doing. Now, mineral resources are being explored, taken out, and I would say some of the funds coming into the government's coffers. Because, you know, we talk about gold. In the past, I think private people were the beneficiaries of whatever we were getting from gold. Illegal miners. What is the cause of the problems in Zamfara? It's because of illegal miners being financed by some external nations, or let me use nations, some external foreign bodies, to the extent that they will equip these illegal miners to protect them from them. And again, let's look at even at the state level, until probably last year, I think last year, 2024, some states were just taking the revenue from the mineral resources within their jurisdiction. Whereas the oil from the coastal states were being shared by all of us, 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory and the federal governments. So things are now being streamlined. So mineral resources are there coming in, agriculture is now bringing in some more than either two by way of revenue to the government. Also, you want to look at the current issue of taxes. You'll notice that people were not too happy when this the tax acts, the 4 tax acts were signed in July last year by the president. But I want to believe that the president and the people in government know where they are heading to. The United Kingdom, I think they rely more on taxes than any other thing. So Nigeria, we just have to now look at it. That, well, revenue from oil is dwindling. People are talking of alternative sources and all the rest. Some other countries are now coming up as also oil producers. So what do? Let's take care of what we can control. It's like an individual. You know, you cannot anticipate your income, especially for businessmen. But what you can control is your expenses or your expenditure. So for taxes, it's within the confines of our country. We can control it, we can manage it, we can determine it. And I want to believe that's why we had this tax reform coming up the last few years, and now starting 1st of January of this year. And people will say, the government wants to bleed us dry. And I will say, those that are to be bled are not you and I, but the people up there. People who are using, what's it called now? Heavy vehicles. And when you look at how much they pay as tax, you will sympathize with this country. But now with all the introductions through the reforms, virtually everybody will now pay taxes, not according to your, is it according to your cloth now, but according to your size.
Okay, let's quickly look at all the areas of all that we've been saying. I'm sure that the Dangote refinery, functionality too must have helped in our, revenue generation. And then we're sure that the oil being taken by Dangote, the crude being taken by Dangote refinery, the money as it goes there really gets to government coffers as expected. But let's look at some of the challenges that are facing us. You have mentioned the issue of corruption, and I still want us to dwell on the issue of corruption and government expense. Governance, the cost of running governance is a major challenge. But in all of this, are we supposed to borrow to pay salaries? From my little lack of accounting knowledge, I know that you don't borrow to pay salaries because it has become a trend from your analysis. And if we're not careful, Nigeria, if you look at it, we have a large number of civil service servants, very large number. Unlike if you look at the private sector, what one person would do in the private sector, about 10 people might be running that same thing in a public service. Now, so how do you think we can get to a point where we streamline what we're spending? And then because at some point, I'll share with you revenue generation as of the 3rd quarter of 2025. And let's see, we're not generating as much as we're spending. And by my layman's knowledge, if I'm a salary earner, I should cut my coats according to my cloth, not even my size. So these are the worrisome part of it. You are collecting loans, some people are diverting that loan, and now we're all going to pay for it together.
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier on. Payment of salaries is not supposed to come from a loan. Loans are supposed to go into capital projects that will probably yield revenue in future or make life more comfortable for the people. But unfortunately, I would say it will take a very bold, courageous, no-nonsense man at the top to now say we want to reduce the number of civil servants and public servants.
So you think we should begin to look into that?
No, I will explain. I'm aware of the Onosaye reports
Okay.
at the national level. There were some recommendations.
What were they?
The staff of the federal government ought to have been reduced arising from that report. I think after Onosaye, I think Yahali or so also did some. I'm aware that Dr. Jonathan was to implement that report shortly before the 2015 now, election. But because of the election and the likely political consequences, he stepped it down. President Buhari also was to take it up, set up another committee to look at it. Along the line, it died down. And now we have President Tinubu there. You know, there are quite a lot of things. Let's even go to what happened last week when the president signed an executive order 9 that made NNPC to stop deducting a lot of
expense.
Yes, from
Charges.
what comes into the federation account, or what should come into the federation account. What did we have? Pengassan, led by Osifo, started threatening, and all the rest. For every little thing, you see the NLC coming up with threats, we'll go on strike, we'll go on protest, and all the rest. So these are serious distractions. I'm aware, like, let me take like Osun State, about 35,000 civil servants, taking about 91% of the revenue of Osun State. And what happens to the artisans, the market women, and all the other people in the public?
Nothing gets to them.
And the same thing at the federal level. There was a time, I think it was when Obasanjo was in power, that I personally wrote a mail to the president and also addressed Adams Oshomole.
Okay, quickly, let's just quickly pay some bills. We need to go on a commercial break for me. And when we come back, of course, we'll listen to the mail euros and how some of these things were handled. Stay with us, don't go away.
Alright everyone, open your ears, make we talk. Time don't reach to rearrange this house, we give una small wisdom. Shout my team fresh now, but you know, I beg no be so. Before I go talk, say our smile no reach. Make that think and try so. Ever heard of Colgate, the #1 oral care brand in the world?
Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection plus 24 hours cavity defense. The formula boost with calcium for lifelong smiles.
Mom, it's a time to brush. No more for my cover now.
Colgate for 24 hours maximum cavity protection.
Protect every day with Hypo.
Dirty and stains no be do shakara. We got the remedy, original palasa. Hypo, go hypo. Protect your home every day with Hypo.
No greed. Protect every day with Hypo.
All right, welcome back. It's still AM120. Before we went on that break, of course, Mr. Adepeju, you were sharing with us that you wrote a mail in respect of some of these,
Concerns.
reports from the Onosaye report and the Yale Ahmed report, talking about NLC, coming up against some of these decisions.
Okay, no, the mail I wrote even had to do with oil, that's the cost of petrol at that time. You know, Oshomole was the president, Obasanjo was a real president, and NLC kept saying that, well, what the government said were spending in importing petroleum products are not supposed to be as high as that. And I now challenge the NLC that you have the capacity, you have the goodwill, you have the virtually everything. Try to import a tank into Nigeria. Give us your costs, landing costs. Let us compare it with
What the
federal government was doing or was giving to us. Whereas the presidency replied me, Oshiomole did not even acknowledge my mail. And that's why most times when I see him in his khaki leading protests, I just laugh that this man is deceiving people. You know, because the real thing.
What were you trying to achieve when you said that they should, import petroleum products? Was it that you didn't believe what they said, or you didn't believe, or you believed the federal government more?
No, it's not a matter of belief. I want to look at the comparative costs. You bring in 1 barrel of oil, you say it's $1,000. She brings in her own, it is $500. Then we can now use the NLC's figure to challenge the government. Look at what is happening now. Dangote refinery and the
imported petroleum.
Yes, so that's the kind of thing I was expecting will happen. You know, right now we have all this competition. Each party trying to to play down the other. So, and where the people are the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But
So that's the kind of thing I
before we go to the
expected.
people, which is actually what I want to also talk about right now. But I want us to look at the 2026 budget and, 30% already eating into the budget already. But do you think we're on the right track, looking at this current administration and how it has, talking of the new tax laws, the effect, how it's planned to, make sure tax evaders in years past do not evade tax. Do you think we're on the right path?
Well, for the tax reform, I believe we're on the right path. Very okay, if well implemented. Because now there's no hiding place for anybody, even for the pepper seller, your BVN, your ININ, although at the end of the day, you are not likely to pay taxes. But those who have been really making money do not, they now have to be subjected to serious tax.
But looking at the reforms of this administration, do you think it's on the right path to clearing these debts?
Well,
or at least reducing it to the minimal?
What we need to do, and which I believe the government is trying to do also, is to increase our revenue base. You talked about 2026 budget. Me, I won't even go into 2026 budget at all because we are just about finishing implementing 2024 budget. Now going into 2025, I think up till June. So the 2026 budget, I think it should be kept in view, like the civil servants will say KIV. Because, when you look at it, the budget deficit is high, about 26 trillion. And if they are to implement all the things in that budget, then we have to resort to borrowing again. So what do we now do? I believe we need to streamline our sources of revenue. Taxes is being taken care of. Like the chairman of the Nigerian Revenue Service has said, they will be making about 40-something trillion naira by way of revenue from taxes and excise and duties and all the rest. And also, when you look at this Executive Order 9 that was signed and took effect from February 13, it is expected that about 10 trillion naira will come from by way of savings into the Federation account. So I think we are on the right path. But many of us may not understand it. And those that are benefiting from the lackadaisical and the fraudulent whatever that has been going on will want to use you and I to now criticize government and give us t-shirts to go on the streets to fight government. Whereas the government is trying to do what is good for us at the expense of those that have been benefiting in the past. So it is for us now to use our sixth senses and know where we are going and cooperate with the government.
But looking at all these figures and these statistics, how do we convince a Nigerian regular citizen that we are on the right path?
That's what I've just
And
mentioned.
how can they feel the impact?
Yes, they can feel the impact more if we hold our subnationals responsible. Let us not concentrate on the federal government alone. States have been having more than they've ever had in the past. What are they using these extras for? Local governments have more than they've been having in the past. Are they really using it for roads, healthcare, primary healthcare, education, and all the rest? But unfortunately, many of us, it's only federal government that we look up to and that we criticize, to the extent that our governors are making money and we are not complaining. We are not checking them. These are things the people need to do. Please, let us just even underplay the federal government now. Let us look at the area of influence, in quotes. How is this money being spent? If you go online, you will see how much is given to Lioli local government every month. You know what is given to Akinyele local government. Now, let's call the chairman of that local government or the chairman of this local government. Such a money has been credited to your account, so to speak. What have you done with it? So that is where I will expect the NGOs and all these activists and all the people to let us start from the bottom. Let's go take it from bottom up at the level that we can influence. How many of us can go to Abuja? Going to Abuja will even cost me more than what I want to benefit from it. But the one that I can walk into his office at no cost, so to speak, let me go and ask him, what are you using our funds for?
Okay, let's quickly look at Nigerian government revenue. Saw a significant surge in 2025 due to the FX reforms, with federal revenue reaching 6.9 trillion naira between January and April, a 40% increase over the same period. In 2024, total 2025 revenue projection were high, driven by tax, though still challenged by debt servicing. Key 2025 economic data indicates a nominal GDP of approximately $285 billion, with per capita income decreasing to $835. Now, let's look at this particular information here. If we have this income coming, are we using all the income to service debt? If the answer is no, then what are we doing with the remaining monies?
Well, sincerely, I'm not in a position to say whether we are using everything to service debt, but at least what we know generally, and it's in the public space, is that we we commit a lot of money, of funds coming into debt servicing. And it has to be, because it's like you owe in your bank some money. If you don't service it, then you are walking towards a liquidation, so to speak. But let's look at the way Nigeria has been managing it. Servicing these debts has allowed, even has encouraged the World Bank to even trying to advance another $500 million to us and match towards agriculture.
So is that to say we are doing well?
It's because we are doing well with our servicing, debt servicing. That's why they are encouraged to do it. Even last week again, the Japanese government is giving us another $50 million.
But when we keep talking about this huge amount of loans we are taking and we are still servicing so much debt, is that also not talking about we not maximizing capacity in that regard, in terms of physical structures, human capacity, and every other thing we should be benefiting from the nation?
Okay, let me quickly talk about that $500 million that is coming in March. It is for agricultural value chain that they want to encourage and put people on the right path, train people on. Right now we have our yam. You take your yam, take it to Ghana, export to US. Now, what can you turn yam into? We have dire and all the rest. Quite a lot of things. Go to
dire and yam?
No, I'm just looking at it. There's Agua. There's Agua that we have with the US. So these are some of the things that are covered under that AGUA Pact. Go to OJ Market now. You see them offloading all sorts of fruits. By the evening, if they are not taken out of OJ, you see the whole place messed up. Now, instead of now selling the raw, I would say raw materials, the $500 million is to now talk about and train people on how to make probably plantain into chips and all the rest, orange into some other things and all the rest. So that will be creating employment for more people. So these are the things that we need to look at. Look at the rail line. China, the greatest highest creditor now is China. And you want to look at it. What have we spent the money on? First, you want to look at the Lagos-Ibadan train service, the Abuja-Kaduna train service, Alaja, Warri train service, and all the rest. These are productive ventures. Look at the roads that we are now constructing with concrete that will last for everything being equal. Let me just be conservative, 20, 30, 40 years. These are the things that we want to look at. Let's channel all these loans into those things. So we'll continue to take the loans to do the infrastructural developments. Then whatever we have, probably they will still continue to service the debt. So that will be in the good books of our lenders.
All right. The conversation continues, but we have to let Mr. Adekpeju go right now. We've been talking about concerns over rising debt service burden, and he is a finance expert, talking of Mr. Tunji Adekpeju. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to this particular issue. And of course, it's a major concern for us Nigerians. All right, we'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids.
Germs always find a way back.
So disinfect your living room every day with Hypo.
Hypo, go hypo. Protect your home every day with hypo.
No green. Protect every day with Hypo.
for staying with us. We're still talking about concerns over rising debt service burden. And to do justice again, we have Comrade Inolaji Akinloye. He's an accountant and public affairs analyst. Going straight to what we have, Comrade, looking at this debt burden we have right now, debt servicing and, over 30% already eating into 2026 budget that we are not even talking about yet because we are still looking at 2024, 2025. What's your view on this?
Well, I just want to commend Mr. President, at least for them to what they met on ground is questioning is more or less like an evil economy. But with the help of Mr. President and his team, I believe with the way they are trying to broaden our revenue, the Nigerian economy might be circumcised for now because we are only training what we cannot swallow. Debt servicing as of 2023 is approximately 50% of our IGR. That's what we are using for debt servicing. So, but I believe with the capacity chairman of Nigerian Revenue Service, at least they should be able to block some leakages and the likes. So we should be able to recover our debt profile.
Let's go to the Nigerian Revenue Service.
Okay.
How would you describe the performance of the leadership?
Well, Dr. Zach Adedeji, I see him as a scholar, a finance guru, and in terms of looking at the reform he has brought to the Nigerian economy, what used to be like, even most of the governors now, the states, their IGR, the FAC, whatever, is now much more than what we used to have before. So I give it to him, being a scholar and being an OAU alumnus.
Okay, now let's come to some school of thought believe that it's not all revenue that should go to the Nigerian Revenue Service that goes there. That there are a lot of corruption in that sector. That a lot of times when people don't remit and they go after them, the people in question...
They negotiate?
Yes, and pay back, from behind and case closed. And so some of the ways we're supposed to generate more revenue into the mainstream, it doesn't get there. So it's like enriching individuals who are in that sector. That's a particular school of thought.
Well, the submission might be right. Because like my dream, 3-4 years ago, within Agbeni Market, the tax collector, they came with a receipt of Ibadan municipal government. And I need to tell some of my people, my siblings and the likes that, no, this receipt is fake. That Ibadan municipal government is obsolete. We are not using that type. I don't really understand. Maybe I should be an infant then. And they are still using that same receipt to collect revenue, to collect taxes from the market people and the likes. So probably corruption at the revenue service to some extent with the help of Dr. Zach, I believe is like through the digital tracking and the likes. We should be able to commend them. They have been trying to block some blockages and the likes. So when you heard about the 2026 tax reform whatsoever, some of the people that they are lamenting happens to be like maybe those people that they are not paying tax before. While people that I happen to be a taxpayer, I observe there is a relief from what I've been paying before. So it's just like they are trying to widen the scope of collecting taxes and the like. So, but the corruption aspect is between you and I. What I did with the Agbeni Ogunpa market people by sensitizing them that no, you don't try to pay this type of taxes with the receipt of IMG, but the municipal government should, I don't think they're in existence again, that this is a fraud whatsoever. Nobody should pay tax again. And at the end of the day...
We've talked about corruption, so much has been said about corruption. Exactly. Even the previous guest, it was all on corruption. But what can be done? We know we might not be able to completely eradicate it, but bringing it to its barest minimum. Okay. How can that be done?
But that was why I said it begins between you and I. If at the end of the day, if I'm not a tax officer and based on my little knowledge about finance and tax and the likes, I try to sensitize people within my domain that, oh, no, this thing it doesn't work like that. So what we need to do is let our religious leaders change their sermon, change their whatsoever, that okay, fine. Muslim, every Friday you emphasize on giving harm, they drop your visibility, why the pastors too? On Sundays, they try to emphasize more on tithe and the likes. Let them try to change our narrative. Let everybody do the right thing at the right time, in the right way. And I believe we are going to have a better Nigeria.
Now, how do we block the loopholes within the system such that for every money that is supposed to be paid into the federal government account is being paid? When we started, you started by commending the current federal government. I don't know what the current federal government is doing that made you commended them for, it was so obvious. And I was going to start asking you or asking myself that, are you an APC member? Maybe that's why you started on
It's not, let me explain. The debt servicing body is not a political statement or whatsoever. It is just a financial status that we should be able to clarify what brought us here, where are we before, then where are we going?
Maybe you should take us through that. Let us know where we were before this administration and what this administration is doing so far.
Exactly.
I mean, to gain such commendation.
Exactly.
Also.
When you compare Nigerian economy, our GDP to other East African countries, we still remain the giant of Africa. Like people that drink all these beers and the likes, they do lament in Ghana that a cost of beer costs close to 5,000 naira. Whereby that beer, we are going to buy it here in Nigeria like 5.
Maybe they're just being judicious in their activities.
No, they are being judicious.
Or making
what they did in Ghana, they try to devalue their currency and the likes. And at the end of the day, when I see some set of people trying to compare Nigeria to Ghana or to Cotonou, I'll just smile. That's what happened to Ghana.
Could it be that they're trying to discourage the drink?
They are not discouraging. Even the table water cost approximately like 2,600 naira. Table water that we are buying here for 200 naira, 250 naira, while a pack goes for 1,600. So at the end of the day, Nigerians, we are always lamenting, and fine. The government too, they have not been doing the best, but they are only doing based on their capacity, what they have the capacity to do. But what I'm saying is, without being partisan or whatsoever, give it to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in terms of the economic reform and the likes. The subsidy removal is a way to go. Then the stability of our economics, the naira flotation and the likes, give it to him. And if at the end of the day some people are lamenting that, they've not seen the impact of this government, I will laugh. That come to LAUTECH now, where happens to be the alumnus of the school. LAUTECH received approximately close to 1.8 billion naira, courtesy of Nail Fund, to pay for the average Nigerians that they couldn't afford their tuition fee. A tuition fee in LAUTECH now, if you are to study nursing, medicine, MLS, you should be able to have a deep pocket, close to like maybe 850,000 naira. So if not because of Nail Fund, are you telling me ordinary Nigerians, ordinary Oyo State residents, that they are even the salary, the civil servants, I don't think they should be able to finance that. The courtesy of Net Fund, the part of money realized from subsidy was used for Nail Fund to subsidize the education, whereby after 10 years of graduating, they will keep paying back the loan without interest.
Okay, let's look at domestic debt servicing and external debt servicing now. It feels like the domestic is actually giving us more issue than that of the external debt servicing. Why is that?
Well, when I observe that most of the 36 governors, they are specialists in misplaced priority. If we start by comparing most of what are they borrowing for? Are you borrowing to consume, for consumption, or are you borrowing for recurrent expenditure? No. So you should be able to borrow for something tangible, like investment into power, rail, transport, and
But we've seen borrowings on recurrent expenditure a lot.
And that was the reason the state government, the local government, they need to put them in order that they should stop trading what they cannot swallow.
Now, let's quickly look at this debt of a thing. It's so worrisome that we have this much debt, and even the National Assembly is comfortable. I use that word comfortable because of they see the budget at the time it's supposed to, when it's a bill to be passed into law, and they're not even raising a lamp.
And budget is
I'm sure that while all of this is going on, they also see what our level of debt is, and they should have a committee that is supposed to be looking at all of this. And, there should be checks and balance such that they also caution the federal government to say, federal government, look at the level of our debts. We're preparing for a new year on zero level. How do we handle this?
Okay, thank you. From my little observation, debt should be tagged as evil or whatsoever. It's not. You shouldn't be tagging debt as an evil thing or whatsoever. If it is basically, what are they using the debt for? the G20, the US, and some other Western or the Senate climb, or how do we call them? They borrowed too. Go and compare the debt profile of US. They borrow consistently. They are like let me say like an emeritus borrower. So if at the end of the day, what the House of Assembly, what they are trying to do, what they ought to do is that, okay, what are we borrowing for? There should be scrutiny, but we should not condemn total borrowing.
I wonder why you, maybe because you're an expert, that's why you're seeing it that way.
Okay.
Because I truly know that there's a certain amount of money that if I borrow, I will not be able to sleep.
Okay.
Not because I cannot pay,
Okay.
but the fact that I'm even owing a loan gives me some kind of psychological imbalance. Yes, and so I'm just worried that we're talking about borrowing in hundreds,
It doesn't
100
matter.
trillions
What are
of
you borrowing
hundreds.
for?
Okay,
Like
maybe
I said,
Let's talk about what we are borrowing
we're
for.
talking about what we are borrowing for
And what we
are
should.
actually using the money for.
Yes.
So probably let's start from the local government level.
Okay.
At the end of the day now, this should be like 2026. Since 2020, I don't think I have access to any local government budget for their year and whatsoever. And at the end of the day, I keep wondering that, okay, fine, if really we want to enjoy the real dividend of democracy, we should start from grassroots level. 2026 now. If I'm not being political or whatsoever, I can't even fathom that, oh, this is a particular local government, this is their budget for 2026. So when we start extraying like that, okay, fine. How much is the amount of money coming to each local government? What are they using the money for? But if I'm to rate all the entire local government, probably from the southwest, probably I should be rating them 0. Because at the end of the day, they are only chewing in what they cannot swallow. They are not coming out with a policy formulation that, okay, this is what we are going, this is what we've done so far. And at the end of the day, people keep lamenting that, no, borrowing. But for my little observation, being a finance expert, borrowing for consumption is satanical.
We'll be back on
borrowing
that.
to pay recurrent expenditure is unquestionable. It's
We will
questionable.
continue on that, but we have a commercial break, and when we return, we'll continue on where should our borrowings, the money, where should it be channeled to? Okay. Exactly. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
During this blessed month, we begin with prayer, with faith, and with the spirit of giving. Ramadan is more than just about fasting. It's about bringing our hearts together. Together we break our fast and celebrate the blessings of this holy month. Bring out the flavors of the season with Anga Ramadan Kareem.
For staying with us. We are still talking about debt service in Nigeria. I mean, the concerns, especially that was raised by the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun. But still doing justice to that, we have Comrade Inaolaji Akinloye, who's been talking to us about these particular concerns. Before we went on that break, Comrade, we're talking about what the loans, the monies should actually be channeled into. Are they channeled into that direction? So far,
well,
what do you
to some extent, if I'm to rate this administration, even at Oyo State level, with the federal level, to some extent, they have been using the money towards what we ought to use it for.
So you feel we are seeing the physical impact?
Exactly. Look at your, but it's only your studio now. They've not felt the impact of the borrowing whatsoever. Because I believe being the first broadcasting station in Oyo State that belongs to the state, you guys are experiencing some infrastructural deficit. And probably I'm using this medium to appeal to our darling governors and the board of directors too, that please, we are expecting something bigger than this. We can see the road Mr. Governor have done so far, which is happens to be okay, part of the borrowing whatsoever. We can see some infrastructure, but let them come to the BCOS too. You guys really need some infrastructural support.
Well, let me also let you know that all of this is in the current budget. And one will be sure that it will be implemented, in this year's.
Kudos to
but I must say that a lot is being done that you might not also be able.
I'm aware. I can see some of the road, the circular road and the lights. So I give it to Mr. Governor that, okay, fine, this is what we are borrowing for. We are not borrowing for like maybe end of the year party or whatsoever to borrow salary, to pay salary. No.
Okay, now let's quickly go to other areas that we have been discussing. This borrowing, like I was saying, that sometimes I've got a bank who sent me a notice for loan.
Yeah, sure.
And I said, sorry, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Yes, that loan was supposed to help develop in a few things. But I can't stand the fact that I have to borrow. And then I sleep and wake up that I have this much to pay. Now, so the spirit behind borrowing is for development.
Yeah.
Are we developing at the pace of our borrowing?
And that was why I said there should be like digitalization of some of our revenue leakages and the likes, even through the MDAs. Most of the borrowing too is questioning. Is satanic at that? What really transpire? Why must you have to borrow this for the social amount and the likes? So what Mr. President, Mr. Governor, the local government chairman, what they ought to do is, okay, how do we block some leakages and the likes? So whereby we are going to have more revenue. That was why I commend Dr. Zach, the chairman, Nigerian Revenue Service, that, oh, fine. He has given us what we've not been having before in Nigeria in terms of enlarging our revenue for Nigerians and the like. So the main purpose of borrowing is not as if maybe the main purpose of borrowing should be for like, okay, infrastructural development. Then what is the return on investment on that borrowing too? The borrowing shouldn't be meant for charity or whatsoever.
Mm. There's a projection that 17.89 trillion naira would be borrowed in 2026. Okay. That's about 72% from 2025. And now, what do you think, or what step do you think this current administration can take to ease the debt pressure? We have established that borrowing is not a bad idea. Yeah, sure. It's not completely bad. Of course, Nigeria is not the first country. But the pressure it puts on Nigerians, the pressure it puts on this administration, on this government, how can the government ease the pressure?
Well, how they can ease the pressure is like, okay, fine, probably if they have to regulate most of our borrowings, wherever the interest rates, renegotiate before borrowing too. Because most banks now, going there to borrow, even all these online apps, banks, fintech, whatsoever, they need to be questioning that, okay, fine, I cannot borrow 10 million naira, and you are telling me that in 3 months or 6 months' time, I'll be paying almost 3.6 million naira, which I believe is questioning, is satanic, that they should, the government should be able to renegotiate, adjust the borrowing, the interest rate on the borrowing. Mm-hmm. So with that, I believe the body is going to relieve. But what purpose of borrowing should be more specific. That, okay, fine, if I'm borrowing for educational support, or if I'm borrowing for infrastructural or whatsoever, that should be commonsensical, not that I'm borrowing for burial or okuana and the likes.
Let's look at the impact on the people. How do you think, or how are the people supposed to feel the impact of the borrowings, of the monies being borrowed? And do you think we are really feeling the impact?
We are really feeling the impact. Like I've said here, like, look at the infrastructural, Badagry to Sokoto, the coastal road to Lagos to Calabar, then the circular road happening in Ibadan too. So it's part of the development too. And I was, compared to Bashorun to Olonda access to Enyosha, I've been there for like 5 years, and at the end of the day, it was not 2 days ago, I drove around that axis. I was wondering, wow, this is what they call development. So if our state government is borrowing for infrastructural development, it's a welcome idea. And at the end of the day, I keep laughing when we masses, because I tag myself as a spokesperson for ordinary citizens, we keep lamenting. The government is not doing anything, government is not doing that. Last year, December, I went for Hajj in Saudi Arabia. And at the end of the day, I need to start calculating what to eat that compared to Naira. So I have a video, short clips here, whereby I need to visit their filling station. They're fine. They are one of the oil-rich states. They're okay, fine. How much are they selling their fuel per liter compared to Nigeria? That was when I knew that, oh, it's obvious they've really removed subsidy. It's not as if there's nothing like maybe the federal government is trying to do.
So how much were they selling their oil in Naira?
In Naira, that's as of December 7, that was approximately 860 Naira. Compared to Nigerian money. So, and at the end
and were they giving subsidy or was not subsidized?
Fine. Compared to their population, compared to Nigerian population, Nigeria is only chewing what they are not swallowing, what they cannot swallow. We keep complaining about electricity, whatsoever, there's no light, there's no this. I just laugh. When the Honorable Minister of Power introduced Band A, Band B, Band C, some people are lamenting, even advise us that we should be able to be closing our, shutting down our freezer, maybe whenever we are going out whatsoever. But people were lamenting that, okay, fine, what sort of advice is that? But I was in Saudi Arabia. I was told that you are being charged based on total number of appliances. That if you are using AC, and there is no house you can stay in Saudi Arabia without AC, that you'll be going to survive due to the harsh weather there. So if you are using one AC air conditioner, costs 250,000 Nigerian money. So that means in a houses of family of 4, if you want to be economical, you are spending close to 500,000 naira for electricity consumption monthly. So and at the end of the day, I now think that, okay, fine. Even in UK, my brother traveled to London in 2006. So at the end of the day, being a fresh student or whatsoever, where he was cutting, they need to send him out. And he was not staying with an outsider. He was cutting with our immediate cousin. At the end of the day, they send him out packing. Oh, so you came back from work, and at the end of the day, you want the heater and the lights. That, are you okay? Are you normal? They send him out. So, and if at the end of the day, we are trying to say, okay, we believe everything should be free in Nigeria. No. Even in Freetown, there's no free.
Comrade, these countries you mentioned, you know, they have this level of development.
Hey, Bobby,
now, let's even look at the revenue base. Now, individual revenue. Yeah. If you look at what an individual earns in Nigeria, okay, with some of those countries, that's why some people are leaving Nigeria for those countries. They are earning higher. On one of my emails, I receive regular emails from Canadian government asking me to come in. And trust me, I don't have business with them. Not because Nigeria is better than Canada, okay, but because I ask myself, what kind of... I've seen people ask me, I'll come over, I tell them, what do you want me to come and do? You must be able to convince me, revenue base here is low.
Yes.
And that's why the cost of living will continue to be low.
Okay.
But the cost of revenue, I mean the revenue, not cost now. In some of those countries, in a week, some of them earn up to $1,500 every week.
Okay. What about their bills?
That's why it's high. Because they're earning. Nigerians that are running abroad are looking at earnings.
Exactly.
They're not looking at the bills.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, whatever you earn goes back to government.
God bless you. So that was the main reason I was saying Nigerian government is treating what they can also swallow. In terms of tax implementation, during Awolowo era that we do commend them that, no, Awolowo, I will just laugh. Most of the people that fail to pay tax, they will take them to farm to go and work. But now we're in democracy now. Nobody is paying tax. You can imagine while I was in the market with some of my siblings too, I have to stop the tax collector that, no, what you are doing is wrong. You need to get arrested. We cannot be paying with this.
But looking at the new tax law, do you think government has put the right process in place to make sure there are no tax evaders? And talking of, you know, also another source of raising revenue for Nigeria.
Well, I need to give it to the Nigerian Revenue Service. They've done the needful. What we need to do now is sincerity of purpose as a Nigerian. Let everybody do the needful. So, and what they need to do now is like, probably where do we normally have the leakages? Probably they should go by digitalization of the revenue collection, which they have been doing in my place of work, Federal Polytechnic Haiti. I don't think we do collect anything that has to do with cash or whatsoever. So it has to do with the online payment and the likes. So, and with the introduction of the new tax law, I believe probably before the second quarter of this year, we should be able to commend Dr. Zak, the chairman of Nigerian Revenue Service.
If you ask me, you're in love with Dr. Zak and his activities. But let's leave that. That's on a lighter note. Yeah. That's actually on a lighter note. Let's still look at what is being done in that particular agency. Okay. Yes, you have said they're doing a lot. As an expert, yes, I won't be able to speak the way you're speaking because I'm not an expert. Okay. So you see it from a better perspective than we are seeing it. But let's look at what is being done. Expectations of Nigerians. Now, all of these incomes that are being generated, what should the monies be used for in terms of developing the society? As we speak today, go and look at a federal institution, UCH. You still see a lot of gaps there. If you look at many federal roads, they're not motorable. Now you're talking about, was it the first guest who talked about funds coming into agric? Now, the funds coming into agric, if we still have